Hey guys, welcome to the line change. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about a potential trade target for the Vancouver Canucks this offseason. I know we still have one more game to go, but people are already starting to daydream about potential signings, trades, and basically trying to find that 2C that the Canucks desperately need. We're going to go over one player in particular who I think is a bit of a off-season dreaming scenario, but I still like the idea of it. So we're going to dive right into it. And of course, we're talking about Coquitlam's own Mathew Barzal. Currently of the New York Islanders, we're going to break it down into a few different categories. We're going to break it down into the opportunity, um, the how he fits in with the Canucks, as well as his contract and what the trade cost could be. Uh, this is pulled from an article on by our friends at Canucks Army. I'll of course leave a link to the article in the description down below. But let's go ahead and dive right into starting off with the opportunity. The Islanders, much like the Canucks, ended up 24-25 stuck in the mushy middle. Not dramatically close to grabbing a playoff spot, but not so far out as to land a good draft pick. But the situation is different for New York than it is for Vancouver. For one, the Islanders entered the season as one of the oldest teams in the league, though that's changed a little due to some in-season selling off of veterans. They don't hold quite the same hopes of a youth-driven upswing as do the Canucks. That's led to some calls for a rebuild or at least a retool of sorts. We don't know how likely such a thing is to occur. While the 82-year-old Lou Lamoriello is still in charge, he can be forgiven if he's not too future-orientated at the moment, but Lamoriello will retire eventually, maybe even as soon as this offseason, and one way or another, change is coming to Long Island. Were the Islanders to make a commitment toward getting younger, Barzal might not immediately stand out as a candidate to be traded. He's still just 27 years old and will hit 28 in late May. That puts at least 3 years between him and the likes of 25-year-olds Noah Dobson and Alexander Romanov, and makes him considerably older than the team's top prospects, like the newly acquired Callum Ritchie. So there is a scenario out there where the New York Islanders decide to really kickstart a youth movement by trading their top prime age talent for a package of future-laden assets. There's also the other side of this in which Barzal himself may have a desire to move on. He did somewhat infamously appear to be caught on camera this season commenting on the emptiness of the Islanders' UBS arena. We must say it is probably most likely that the Islanders do not look to trade Barzal, and that he remains with them through whatever roster upheaval they have planned, but the potential exists for the situation to move in another direction where Barzal could become available for the right price. And if this situation arises, the Canucks must pounce on it. So we're going to go over the fit first. We won't waste much time explaining why the Canucks would be interested in someone who is either a passable 1C or a very high quality 2C. Heading into the 25-26, their center depth consists of Mercurial Elias Pettersson, an injured Filipino, the sophomore Atu Ratu, and good old Teddy Bluger. The need for another top six center is obvious and apparent, and GM Patrick Allvin has already made it be known as his top offseason priority. Barzal has experienced a fairly up and down career in the NHL thus far, including this current season in which he's been out of the lineup since February with a lower body injury, but it comes on the heels of a banner campaign in 23-24 in which Barzal stayed healthy and put up a perfect 80 points in 80 games. That would have been a career high, and save for the 85 points Barzal once notched as a rookie. It must be noted that Barzal spent the bulk of his years on Long Island playing under coach Barry Trotz, who doesn't exactly have a reputation for fostering offensive creativity and freedom. That seemed to keep Barzal's numbers a little artificially low. In 22-23, his first Trotz-free season, Barzal put up 51 points in 58 games. The next year was 80 and 80, and then came this year in which Barzal started cold, began to pick up steam, and then got hurt, halting his season at a mere 20 points in 30 games. Suffice to say that Barzal's ability to produce is and always has been more than adequate for an NHL second-line center, and at its best is well into a 1C territory. And Barzal offers a lot more than a stat line. Right from the earliest days of his career, he's developed a reputation as a smart and responsible two-way center, and even received Selke votes as a rookie. His main weapon is his blazing straight line speed, which combines with his agility and ability to stop on a dime to create one of the most elusive skaters in hockey. The appeal to a team constantly wishing to get faster like Vancouver is obvious enough. Barzal has decent enough size at 6'1" and is right-handed to boot. He's far more of a playmaker than a goal scorer, and yet has notched up to 23 goals in one campaign. He's, in other words, everything that the Canucks could possibly be looking for down the middle, but is the price right? Now we're going to get into the contract. Barzal's contract is a real double-edged sword. On the one hand, he's signed from now through 2031, meaning the next 6 seasons after this one are ages 28 through 33. He's as long-term a solution as is ever going to be found through trade. At the same time, Barzal is on the books in each of those seasons for an average salary of $9.15 million, which any way you slice it seems like a lot to pay for a player coming off 20 points. But is it? Remember that the cap ceiling is going through the roof and the salaries will follow. The Canucks were reportedly willing to offer pending UFA Brock Boeser an average of $8 million over the next 5 seasons. Boeser is just 3 months younger than Barzal, and most would agree that Barzal is the better and more complete player. For a little more than $1 million more than the Canucks' final offer to Boeser and just 1 extra year of term, does Barzal not seem worth it? I think he is. Barzal's contract also comes with an especially stringent 22-team no-trade clause all the way through. Normally, that'd be an obstacle to a trade, but not when you're talking about the player in question's actual hometown. And we have to imagine that of the 10 teams Barzal would allow a trade to, Vancouver makes the list, and having only a limited list of destinations to work with could conspire to lower the asking price for Barzal, not raise it. Speaking of that asking price, we're going to go over the trade cost. Barzal would be a terrific fit in Vancouver, and his contract wouldn't really be an obstacle to that fit. But we're not pitching a free agent signing here. Barzal is still very much the property of the New York Islanders, and even if they decide to part ways this offseason, they won't be doing so for free or for cheap. If we imagine the Islanders were mainly interested in future-based assets, we must still acknowledge that the amount of future assets is going to need to be massive. Let's start with the Canucks' current first-round pick, which should slot somewhere between 13th and 15th overall. That's a valuable piece, but it barely gets conversation started on Barzal. The Canucks would really, really like to avoid trading any of their holy prospect trinity of Lekaramaki, Willander, and the younger Elias Pettersson. At the same time, those are the exact sort of assets that New York would likely demand in these trade talks. It's also hard to imagine the Canucks putting together a big enough package without those prospects included. What could it be? This year's first-round pick, the 2026 first-round pick, and a smattering of B-tier or worse prospects like your Sawyer Minios or Kirill Kudratsev. That could get closer, but it reads as the sort of package that might only be accepted if Barzal were to be straight up demanding his way out of town. As of now, we have no evidence that is the case. Were the Canucks to include one of those 3 top prospects, and remember, we're just talking hypotheticals here, would that seal the deal? A 2026 first-round pick plus, say, a Tom Willander is definitely a package that any team has to stop and consider. Does it really buy 6 seasons of a two-way top 6 center at what is becoming an increasingly reasonable cap hit? Or is it at least close enough that the Canucks could finish off the set with an extra second-round pick or something like that? We're not sure we're fully convinced, but we don't have to be. This is the early onset of the offseason, and at this point, we're just dreaming. Mathew Barzal might be the perfect outcome for the Canucks' summer search for a center. How likely of an outcome he'll be remains to be seen. So that is that article. And honestly, I really like the idea of bringing Mathew Barzal home and having him as your 2C. As what the article stated, obviously the price is going to be extremely high. You're likely going to have to package either, Lekaramaki, Willander, or even DPD in order to even maybe get the Islanders to the table. Perhaps you could get away with maybe 2 first-round picks and then maybe a Minio or Kudratsev or somebody else. But I really like the idea of bringing Mathew Barzal home. Yes, this season he was riddled with injuries and did not play a whole lot. But you have to look at it as though Barzal comes with a lot of term. And that is something that the Canucks want. They want somebody with term. And we mentioned it in the article as well. He comes with speed. And that is one thing that the Canucks severely lack, especially up the middle, and is something that would most certainly make this team better, is if they had a guy with lots of speed. When I think of Mathew Barzal, I think of Quinn Hughes, and the way that Quinn Hughes can just stop on a dime and completely take people's feet right from out from underneath them. Barzal is essentially the same, when it comes to his skating and his speed. And just imagine, having Quinn Hughes and Mathew Barzal playing to get together with that speed. And then even if you didn't necessarily maybe start with Barzal on the second line, or no, imagine if you had Barzal on your power play unit and he was playing with PD. He's known to be a playmaker, and imagine him feeding PD the puck, and perhaps we'd see the old PD again if you paired those two together, at least on the power play anyway. You would most likely want him on your second line, or centering your second line, and then that would move Ratu down to the third line, and then maybe Bluger on the fourth line. Obviously, this all depends on whether or not they re-sign Pia Suter. You could also have Suter play the wing on the second line if you were to go out and get Mathew Barzal. But I really like this article and this idea of bringing Mathew Barzal home. As the article stated, he most likely has the Canucks as part of his 10 teams that he's willing to trade to, as after all, it's his hometown. And he would most likely really want to play for a guy like Rick Tocchet. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think of this, off-season dreaming of, the Canucks potentially trading for Mathew Barzal, bringing him in and having him as your 2C, and then obviously with him having term and the salary cap going up? As I mentioned, I really like this idea. Do I think it's possible? I don't know. It could be a little too much costly for the Canucks. If they have to give up, prospects such as Willander, Lekkerimäki, and maybe even DPD, people might not want to part ways with those guys. And heck, even the Canucks may not want to part ways with those guys. But I really like this idea of bringing Mathew Barzal home and having him as your 2C. Once again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed to the Line Change, go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, let me actually, you know what? Yeah, once again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.